Hi, welcome to this installment to the recovery process. The recovery process is the work I do, which is really assisting clients to wake up in this dream. If you really think this isn't a dream, of course what I'm saying sounds preposterous. But if you study Wei Wu Wei, or if you're interested in the perennial philosophy, or if you're interested in the whole Advaita, the whole historical doctrine of mind as the source of everything, referred to as noumenon in Wei Wu Wei's many writings, then you're really shifting from plurality, that there are multiple variables to explore, to the idea of there is only one thing to explore, which is mind. And your focus then shifts to how does mind dream this dream, featuring us as the dreamers in the dream, and what are we doing in the dream? And the more you investigate it from that point of view, from that perspective, the more you see that mind is dreaming this dream, featuring the dreamers trying to prove they exist separate from mind, outside of the dream mind is dreaming. Now, if mind is dreaming this dream, then obviously the mind is dreaming the dreamers pretending they exist outside the dream mind is dreaming. And since mind is dreaming the dream, then it's not possible for the dreamers to prove they exist outside the dream. And nevertheless, that's the goal for the dreamers in this dream. And that's going to require a trick called duality, in which the dreamers move from mind to the idea of that they're separate from mind or not mind. So if mind is all there is, then mind is dreaming the dreamers, engaging in duality to create the fiction of not mind in order to support the lie they exist outside the dream mind is dreaming. In short, it looks like that what mind is dreaming is the dreamers in the dream, trying to prove that mind is not the source of the dream and that they have independent existence as something real separate from the dream mind is dreaming. Now, it's not possible for a dreamer to be separate from mind because mind is dreaming the whole deal. Then mind is dreaming a parody. The parody mind is dreaming features what the dreamers do in the dream to support the fiction they can prove with duality that they have no connection to mind, that mind is not their source, and that they exist outside the dream mind is dreaming. If that's not possible, if no dreamer in the dream can successfully prove that it's not being dreamed by mind, in order to defend that the light exists outside the dream mind is dreaming, then you got to ask the question, what is it the dreamer relies on in the dream to substantiate the fiction that it can successfully prove or demonstrate that truth is false? Truth being right now is the dream mind is dreaming, and the dreamer in the dream is saying, or the dreamer in the dream is featured defending the fiction, it can prove that's not true. Now, if it is true, then there's nothing the dreamer in the dream can do to prove it's not true, and that's what makes this dream fascinating. The more you wake up and consider, or at least play with the possibility that everyone you know or meet is a dreamer in this dream, then you get to identify how they fill time using duality to defend the fiction they exist outside the dream mind is dreaming, as if they can prove that truth is false. And one of the things you begin to quickly see, if you play with this idea, is that the closest the dreamer can get to the fiction it exists outside the dream mind is dreaming is through suffering. In a sense, then, if the dreamers in the dream are going to create duality, which doesn't exist because mind is what not mind is, then no dreamer in the dream can successfully prove truth is false. And that all the dreamers in the dream, almost to a man, are featured doing that, using suffering as confirmation that a suffering someone exists as a real person outside the dream mind is dreaming. Therefore, truth as mind is false. Now, if it's not possible, even with suffering, to prove truth is false, then that explains the requirement of repetitive suffering. No amount of suffering is going to successfully prove the dreamer exists as a separate entity outside the dream mind is dreaming, and therefore, in order to sustain the fiction, it's possible to prove the truth is false. The dreamer has to generate reiterated suffering. Now, most of the dreamers in the dream view their suffering as certainly not content in a dream, and that they are people who are suffering. So the shift from the idea that people exist, in fact, outside the dream to suffer, to the possibility that the dreamers require suffering to prolong the fiction they can prove truth is false, that's quite a jump. That's quite an amazing leap in consciousness, in awareness. And you can pretty well predict, and as you begin to wake up, you begin to identify that one of the things that's dominant in this dream is the degree to which the dreamers in the dream are reluctant to shift from a people-based concept of reality to the possibility of a mind-based explanation for the people-based fantasy requiring suffering in the dream in order to prolong the fiction. It's possible to prove that mind is not the source of everything. Mind is dreaming its own rebuttal. And mind would have to be conscious of the fact it's dreaming its own rebuttal. Only the dreamers in the dream have to dismiss the fact they know that using amnesia so that they can pursue the fiction in the dream, that suffering will eventually confirm that truth is false because a suffering someone must be a real someone. With this in mind, today's entry begins to kind of scope out some of the underlying dynamics of the architecture of how mind assembles this dream and the part the dreamers play in this dream. Hope you find this interesting. Those that are already pursuing this are inclined to view this as possible. And those that are firmly entrenched in the fiction, they are someone that suffering is confirmation, the dreamer is a real suffering person, are obviously going to view this anywhere from alarm to total disbelief and having to debunk it as hogwash. That's okay with me. We're exploring the non-dual point of view, and we're interested in the possibility that mind is all there is, and that mind is dreaming this whole dream, this whole parody, featuring us, the dreamers, as the main characters in this dream, and what we do in the dream to play the game of tag. Tag being defined as the anti-truth game, which almost everyone seems to be playing. The more you wake up, the more this expand into consciousness, the more that what we're talking about becomes plausible. And there's a tipping point at which you go, it's not only plausible, it's beginning to look like it could be true. And that's when things get interesting for the dreamer in the process of waking up. Hope you enjoyed this installment, and I really appreciate all the email and all of you who are interested in this work I do. And I'm getting email from lots of people who are doing, lots of dreamers who are engaged in the same kind of work. So I'm one of many that are pursuing this whole way of looking at suffering. And I am interested in everyone's comments, including those who want to debunk it. That's just fine with me. See you next installment next week. Bye-bye for now.